And let's see if there's anyone who's going to join us today.
You do this every week, right, Sophie?
Yes, we do. Yes, we are live. We are good. Just let me see if I can see it on my screen. Awesome, we are. Okay, so we're not sure if there's anyone looking yet. So we're just going to wait a few more minutes. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we do this weekly and we have a theme. So on our Hearty Chats, normally we're inviting experts or moms who, share their insights on whatever that's close to our heart. And for the last few weeks, we have been focusing on mental emotional wellness for kids. And we're still going along this theme until the end of the month. And each week we cover an aspect of mental emotional wellness. So we started with listening and respect and self-esteem. And I think last week was kind of about relationships and how, parents can affect the child's mental emotional wellness. So this week we're starting with engaging children with problem solving skills, and that's where you're coming in. So it's really great to have you. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if anyone's joining us, but I'm just going to start, and I guess along the way we might get somebody. So let's get started. So for those of you who might be watching the replay, welcome to Hearty Chats. And today I'm very happy to have Swati Gauba. She is the Chief Thinker of Kidspreneurship. Am I right? Very, very interesting. We're going to ask a little bit more about what that is. And I know her mission for that is to empower kids to be independent and have an entrepreneurial mindset. How wonderful. Now, Swati is certified in happiness coaching, and she specializes in children. And she also holds a master's in communication management and entrepreneurship. And she has helped corporates, startups, and small and medium enterprises with digital marketing strategies. So very warm welcome to you again, Swati.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you. It's good to be talking to you. I've always seen your Facebook Live, so it's good to be here talking about a topic which is close to my heart.
Oh, so wonderful. And let's tell us a little bit more, Swati. How did you get into doing what you're doing today, right now?
So it's very interesting that you asked this because it goes on to a couple of years back where I was a digital marketing consultant, like you just said, and I was on one of my assignments, and that assignment was with an educational startup, and they were an enrichment center in coding and robotics. And I was, as part of my consultancy gig, I was interviewing a parent. And it so happened that, I was asking them questions about their child. And in one of the questions, I asked them, how good a leader your child is, rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. And, the answer I got back was quite surprising. And she said that, my child doesn't have leadership skills. He doesn't have leadership as a talent. And I feel it's natural or inborn. It took me by surprise because he's just a child, and these things can be developed or nurtured with the right environment and with the right kind of training. So she was quite convinced, and that wasn't right. That was the day I couldn't sleep properly. I was tossing and turning through the night, thinking, there's something wrong here. And then I went on to do a lot more research on this. I got to know about Carol Dweck, who had coined a term called growth mindset, a couple of decades back, working on this area for so long. And this is the exact problem that she had stated, that it is all in we have our limiting beliefs in our mind, and we sort of enforce that on our kids as well. And then they actually grow up thinking that, they're born with certain abilities, which is not true, because life is all about growing, and life is all about, learning new things that you don't already possess. I mean, imagine this to be like a card of, you're playing, you're playing cards, and you get a certain cards, right? Now you won't think that, oh, this is the card that I've gotten, and you'll not try harder. You will draw more cards. You will try your best to win the game. Whereas in life, we always think that, oh, I'm not a good footballer, which means, I don't have that as a natural talent. even educational institutes, what they do is if there's a basketball match or a football match or anything for that matter, they only pick up students who are good at it,
Mm.
right? So that's them promoting this fixed mindset, thinking that others cannot learn this. So this is where the journey started, to address your question. And I decided that I will sort of, and it could be any stream, that any walk of life, any skill that you're being trained at. It's just that you need to have a mindset which says that, you know, you have to continuously improve and learn. So, and
Mm.
it's not like we sometimes operate from a fixed mindset. In spite of me knowing about growth mindset, there are occasions and there are instances where I also operate from a fixed mindset. But I quickly reset myself because I'm
Mm.
trained to think about growth mindset. So
Yes.
when I quickly reset myself, I know that, oh, this is my limiting belief. I shouldn't let it come in my mind, and I should have a growth mindset. So this is where I think the focus is, and this is why I started and I do what I do.
Oh, wonderful. So basically, growth mindset is to inculcate in children that there is always a possibility. There's always it's not, nothing is fixed, and if you're willing to try, you can always find a solution. You can always achieve whatever you want. And I know this is a big topic. I mean, in schools they are starting to have some of these kind of discussions, and I'm glad because I saw my daughter coming back with some of these. But I think even for parents, we are. I think we are. It's kind of a slightly new concept in the sense that we were never exposed to this when we were, or at least not formally exposed to this when we were growing up. But yet it's such an important thing. It's something that schools didn't teach. It was all about academics. So it's so great that there's a lot more emphasis on this right now. So with growth mindset, is also a lot about positive problem solving skills, isn't it? Like how you approach that. And how do you think this translates, problem solving skills? How does that translate to supporting mental emotional wellness in children?
Right. So, like I told you, that this is not a constant state of mind. In fact, sometimes we also called growth mindset as a growth mind state, because it
Mm.
keeps changing, not a constant.
Ah.
So it's also referred to as sometimes growth mind state. So for you to always be in a growth mind state, you have to inculcate certain problem solving abilities, or you should be able to deal with anything that comes your way with a growth mindset, knowing that you will be able to solve it. So that's the first step. Um, and it's quite interesting because a lot of parents, they come and ask me that, my child is facing so and so problem. What do you think the child should do?
Mm.
I tell them that if your child comes and asks you to do their maths homework, would you do that for them? And they say no. So I said, why would you solve their problem, a real life problem for them? So then, that's like an aha moment where they say, yeah, if you're not help, I mean, you can help them. You can be a facilitator. Obviously, that's the job of a parent, to be a facilitator.
Mm.
But your job is not to solve their problems, right? So just allow them to think on their own. You can just give them cues. So the training that we do is not just for the kids, but also for parents to become excellent facilitators for their kids, right?
Mm.
Because it's so funny that we always say this, that parenting doesn't come with a manual or a guide, so we
Yes.
really don't know what's right and what's wrong. But
Yes.
and we learn during the course of the journey. So there are certain things that that parents also need to learn. How do they act as facilitators to kid and not solve their problems? Because we have this tendency, even I would today, if my child comes to me running, I have a problem, someone did this to me, someone bullied me, I will immediately, my response would be, or rather, I would say my reaction, I would react to that in a way that, let me solve this for you, or do this, or do that. But we need to train ourselves to give room to our children to solve problems on their own.
Mm.
Having said that, of course, there are tools, there are trainings that we do with kids, where we train them to become problem solvers. And how we do this is, we encourage them to think out of the box. And of course, it's a very facilitated and a guided process. So I'm telling it to you maybe in a snapshot. So it just may not cover everything, but for them to be great problem solvers, they need to understand that they also need to be creative thinkers. So we
Mm.
always not one solution to a problem.
Yes.
There is no one size fits all. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It is the way you think and way you address the problem. So I'll just take an example. So somebody the other day told me that my child is bullied at school a lot. This happens with almost, every child has faced bullying in some form or the other. So, and he's really petite, and the guys who are bullying him are really like, hefty, can't do anything with them. But then at the same time, he's quite perplexed as to how does he solve this problem. So I said, what are the other things that he can do? So ask him what are the ways in which he can probably, um, get their attention away from him, because it's all about evading that situation and not to really get into that situation being confrontational. So he said, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do this. So he started thinking on those lines, right? It's just to make him think on those lines, because eventually, even in life, going forward, you wouldn't be with them all the time. So you would want them
Yes.
to think on their own and think of not just one solution, but multiple solutions, and then critically evaluate each one of them and arrive at, oh, I think this is the way to go about it, or I think this is how I should approach the situation, given my circumstances, or given the situation, I should go ahead with this. So the ability to be able to think along those lines, that there is no problem that I cannot solve. If I think creatively, I can get through this situation, is something that we need to, constantly repeat. Repeat is the word I keep saying, in every class. I like, so what's the problem you faced today? So what's the solution you came up with? Every day, if you ask them this question, it's almost ingrained in their head that we will find problems everyday lives. We will have to find solutions on our own and not rely on others. You may be right, it's wrong at times, but that's how it is. So this is something, and it eventually, to your question and to your point and to your theme of this month, it leads to emotional well-being, in the sense that um, I know I'm so powerful that I can solve any problem. That power that you get in your head leads to emotional well-being. That ability. I would be more worried if my child doesn't know how to solve a real life problem. I wouldn't be worried if he doesn't know 2 + 2 is 4. I'll be fine. I'll be like, you'll figure it out. You have a calculator. You'll do
Yes.
something.
We have Google and the internet.
Exactly. So that's bigger worry for me. The bigger worry for me at this point is, will you be able to solve a problem which is more real life, which you will face almost every day? There are and now we were talking about this. There is we spoke about IQ and EQ all our lives, and how
Yes.
kids need to have high IQ and EQ. Now is the time they have a high AQ. Now, what is AQ? It's adversity quotient. Okay, so what is that?
Oh,
It is actually your ability to deal with adversities. We've had
wow.
in COVID as a situation, we had doctors who are so educated, but they still haven't, they're not able to deal with the situation, because they're not, their adversity quotient is very low. They were never taught what to do when it comes to adversities. So we don't train our kids enough for real life situations. That's one problem. If we do, will be able to address all kinds of problems, and they will have a very strong emotional and mental well-being, so to say. We when we do classes on empathy, and the first class on empathy is always about increasing your emotional vocabulary, saying that not about only being happy and sad. There are like 200 words, 200 emotions that you could be feeling. So the first step towards, solving a problem is actually acknowledging what's the emotion that I'm feeling exactly at this moment. You know, am I upset, or am I sad, or am I disappointed? Because all of the negative emotions, and negative emotions are good. I always keep telling my students that negative emotions are excellent. Acknowledge how you can work towards addressing them, rather than sulking in a corner, not being able to know, or not being able to express how you're feeling exactly. Because if you can't do that, then how would you come up with a solution? So these are all like things that would eventually lead to a stronger person, a person who has high willpower, and much more, I would say, mental strength.
Yes, yes. Oh, there's so many gems that you have shared. I'm just trying to list them down before I forget. So I like what you said about, it's important that parents are not solving the problem for their child, because then you're not giving them the skills, and give them that space to discover what is the solution or what are the different solutions, and then
Right.
evaluate the best one. And that's really golden, because as you said, we can't be with the kids all the time. So you can solve the problem when they're in front of you, but when they're not there, then what are they going to
Absolutely.
do? Give you a call or what? And I think that's so important, being able to solve issue, and an adversity quotient. That's so important. That's actually almost the first time I'm hearing this. I'm definitely going to research more on that. Love what you share about that part, and especially for this current situation where everything is, we're all in transition. Nobody knows what the new normal is. A lot of changes, not just for adults, for kids as well. And being able to handle that, going to school with a mask or a shield, not being able to play with your friends. My daughter just told me today that she had to do lab class on her own. So normally they would be paired up together, but because of
Mhm.
the social distancing, you can't do a science lab experiment with a partner anymore. So you're actually having to solve that alone. Yeah. So in the first time she's doing that, so it becomes like, you have to find a solution yourself, because you don't have a partner to rely on anymore. So lots of changes like that. So yeah, I think I'm going to read up on that adversity quotient. Learning
Yeah.
empathy and recognizing emotions. I really like what you said about that, because so many times parents are like, oh, why are you sulking, why are you upset, like the get on with your work. Like, it's like we have to acknowledge that emotion. So important. And when you are able to acknowledge your emotion, then will you be able to say, oh, I'm here now, and how can I move on? If you don't even know where you are, like, where are you moving on to, from where? So
Correct.
that's
Correct.
really, I really love everything that you're sharing. It's really, really wonderful.
In fact, there's another point that I wanted to add here is like be vulnerable in front of your kids.
Ah,
Because
yes.
sometimes parents have this whole thing of I have to be very strong in front of my kids, and that
Mm.
doesn't really help them at all. In fact, if you're vulnerable, if you're showing that I'm in a problem and I'm trying to solve a problem, it gives them a good lesson to learn from.
Mm.
They would actually know that in real life there would be problems, right? And mama is dealing with a problem on her own, or daddy is dealing with his problem on his own. So you have to show your vulnerable side to your kids. Don't hide it from your kids. I think that's what we even keep telling a lot of parents, that if there's a problem, if there's a financial crisis, share it with your children. It's okay. They will understand. In fact, it'll only help them in so many ways. So I think that's also another point when it comes to how do they learn. They learn by seeing. They don't learn by, if you tell them five things, they won't learn. They will, now kids are at a point. I think when we were growing up, we would still be obedient kids who would listen to their parents and not question too much. We have a generation in front of us that's always questioning, and they're always looking at us doing things rather than listening to what we are saying. So I have my 2.5-year-old. He takes his calls now. He sits in front of a laptop, his own kiddie laptop that he has, and he goes like, yeah, 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 how right. So he's just learning, watching us.
Oh,
So I think
cute.
that's, we also need to do that. We need to show those skills to kids, that how do we
Mm.
solve, how are we solving problems, and how are we
Mm.
mentally strong for that. And even if you're not mentally strong, there are points where you can show them your vulnerability, that we're weak. Things can go wrong,
We're
and it's
human.
okay. There's nothing, yeah, the world doesn't come down. There's nothing, no, nothing is crashing. It's fine. It's okay to cry sometimes. It's fine.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I think what kids can learn is, how do we pick ourselves up? Yeah,
Correct.
when we are
Absolutely.
down, how do we go up? And like, we're not perfect, so it doesn't make them feel that they have to be perfect as the one. They beat themselves up when they are, not perfect for that day. So
Correct. It
that's
doesn't
really
put
great
pressure.
point. Yes.
They're sort of relaxed. It's okay. Everybody has their own day.
Hmm. Wow, that's really great. Are there any other last tips you have for parents?
Well, not really tips, but I would really say that, and we were also talking about how you need to be very creative in terms of problem solving, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes.
it's not um, being able to say that, oh, I have arrived at a solution. Were you thinking out of the box?
Hmm.
That's the question we constantly need to keep asking our kids. because we need to encourage them to think out of the box. I mean, there's always a straightforward way of dealing with the situation, but if you're not thinking out of the box, and creativity has become one of the most, I would say, prestigious skill sets even now, and I'm sure it will remain in the future, because technology, I mean, they pay so much attention on technology, and I'm a big fan of technology. We are talking because there's technology, but I always feel technology is only a facilitator, right? It's
Mm.
always, it will change with passage of time, and kids are so good with technology. I have my Zoom classes. I've learned so much of technology from kids. I'm a big believer in learning from them. So our classes only start with 10 minutes of them telling me what they know and what I can learn from them.
Wow.
So, and they're so good at technology all the time. So they're like, oh, we can do this, can we show you how we do this? And they're all enthusiastic about it. So that's all fine. They will learn technology with the passage of time. What we need to constantly, encourage kids to do is a little creative thinking. And a lot of parents, when I try and tell about creativity, and they look at it like, yeah, yeah, my child goes to an art and craft class, and I say, no, creativity is beyond art and craft. Art and craft is just one manifestation of creativity. It is much, much beyond that. Your child needs to be a creative thinker. They need to think creativity. I mean, I'm really bad at art and crafts. If you tell me I suck at art and craft, I mean, I can't hold a brush properly. But what I really tell kids is, you need to think out of the box. I mean,
Mm.
I don't accept an answer which is a very straightforward answer. I say that no, this is not acceptable. You have to think a little differently, and you just need to push them a little bit. They
Mm.
can come up with, because kids have no limitations in their heads, unlike
Yes.
us adults. We think with so much limitations,
Yeah,
but they
we're too
don't think.
logical.
Yeah, try and be logical, we try and act very smart, but they in their own way think without limitations, which gives rise to so many ideas in the
Mm.
class itself. I mean, we've generated so many ideas while we interact, even during Zoom
Wow.
calls. I mean, I'm a little skeptical when we started holding our classes on Zoom, but it turns out that kids are even more enthusiastic when they're learning online. So you know
Wow.
so
It's really fun.
yeah,
Wow.
that's the last thing, that
Yeah.
push them.
Yes, yes. And it's so important for parents not to try to say, oh no, this idea doesn't work. Like we just have to keep it open, isn't it? It's my idea,
Yeah, you
not
have
yours.
to be
Mm.
absolutely
Mm.
open-mindedness is given. I mean, in this situation, you can't really tell kids that this is wrong or this is right. I mean, of course, there are ways in which you can tell them that you may did not find something appropriate for some reason or the other, but you have to keep an open mind to whatever they're saying. I mean, it's a
Mm.
policy, my thing, that nothing is wrong. Nothing that you say is wrong. It's
Mm.
only um, probably different ways of looking at things, nothing else.
Mm. Yes, yes, wonderful. Well, Swati, this group is about Hearty Mums.
Mhm.
And what do you do as a Hearty Mum to make you to keep you happy each day? So what's one activity that makes you happy?
Makes
Bonus
me
question.
happy. Um, lots of things I can think of, but let me tell you, my favorite thing is, reading books to my child. I mean, that's that
Mm.
time I find very fascinating, because he's really like a little one, and he actually comes to me with a book saying, "Can you read this to me?" And when I start doing that, I feel like there's a very different connect when you're reading a book to your child.
Yes.
But so yeah, so that happens to be my favorite thing. But yeah, putting him to
Oh,
sleep
so
in the
precious.
morning, I'm just kind of having a good time, and I'm a big advocate of you should have like so many kids. So people my age are like, really, are you saying that? I said, yeah, I think it's a wonderful experience, changes you for the better,
Yes,
and you
definitely.
have like a great time, and you have an opportunity to raise somebody to be a good person, to make a difference in somebody's life. So that's also an added opportunity, I would say.
Yes, very fulfilling. Wonderful. So to me, the
You have
definition
a,
of
you
a
have a
I
daughter,
have
Allison.
two. Yes, I have two.
Fabulous compliment. I keep talking about her to everybody that I meet. I said, "Have you downloaded the circuit journal from his?" This has been made by. So it's quite.
Oh,
You're doing a great job, Sophia. I must say that.
oh, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Yeah, she's yeah, I showed her the picture and she was like, ooh. So thank you so much. Yeah. And so, in our group, we talk about hearty moms. And to me, a hearty mom is a mom who is happy and fulfilled. and therefore able to nurture children that are happy as well. So in your definition, what is a hearty mom?
No, I think it's absolutely correct. I wouldn't want to change it in any way. It's a good of a hearty mom, that one who's happy and one who's able to also pursue what she wants to pursue, right? Because
Mm,
sometimes, mothers make the sacrifice, and I'm a big believer to only be happy if you're pursuing something which is your passion, your purpose in life. Keep doing that, because unless you do that, you won't be really fulfilled, and that will show somewhere, down the line, if not in the initial few years, because you're busy spending time raising a child. But then once he starts going to school, or once your child starts going to school, you really will reflect back and feel that, what am I missing out on? So, apart from being happy, you should be pursuing something which your heart desires, and it could be anything, really
yes.
anything. But you shouldn't really think that you. I don't like saying this, that you shouldn't be making the sacrifice, because
Mm,
of course motherhood is a bit of a sacrifice that you make on various fronts. But at the same time, you should be mindful of the fact that you should continue to do something.
no, that's such a big point. That's a great point. I think a lot of moms have forgotten, in our focus on our children, we actually forget about ourselves and we become last on the list. So always remember to put yourself up somewhere on the to-do list at least.
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's really, really nice chatting with you, Swati. For
Thank
listeners who want to connect with you, I think we can put a link to your website. Is that the best way to connect with you?
you. That'll be the best way. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll do that after this. And yeah, thank you for joining us once again. Such great insights. I've learned, adversity quotient today. I'm going to read up more on that. And for those of you who are watching the replay, put your questions in the comments if you have any, and I'm sure Swati will be very happy to answer them later on. So we'll see you in the next Hearty Chats. So bye for now.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie. Bye. Take care.
All right, I'm just going to stop the live stream.